Hey guys, I'm just another engineer and welcome back to another logic tutorial in Scrap Mechanic. So this time we're going to be covering logic memory. So, you have data, great. Now you need to store it. So, you might think a switch will work perfectly fine. But thing is that you can't really input anything into a switch. You can only take information out of a switch. So, if you want to be able to change the state of the switch without pushing the switch yourself, you're going to need to use only logic blocks to store information. So let's take a look at how we can do that. Now there are many different ways of storing data, or data, however you want to pronounce it. So I'm just going to cover one, which is the method that I use the most often. And this only requires 3 logic blocks that are connected up in a circle like this, or I guess a triangle. So first you have an OR gate, you have a NOR gate, and you have another NOR gate. So this goes in a circle, and what this means is that when you feed an input to one of the NOR gates that's on, it'll turn off, and it'll switch the sides. Pretty simple memory system right here. But, if you want to get a bit more fancy, you can add a little bit more logic to only do it with one button. So, there are 2 different things that you can put into memory. There's the actual data itself, so whether or not the thing is on or if it's off, and also you need to tell it when to accept an input. So you need to tell it when to either save a 1 or save a 0. So in this case, the button here is our data. So if you look at the memory right there, we can push this button. Oh wait, hang on. That's supposed to be a NOR gate. So you can push this button as many times as you want, but nothing's going to happen to the memory there. But if you turn on this switch, which is enable read write, or sorry, not read write, just enable write, then when you I didn't wire that up. So, when you push the button, it changes the state of memory. But the thing is, when I let go of the button, then it changes back. So, I should probably make this a switch. Right there. So, the input is now a 1. I turn off the write memory bit, and now I can do whatever I want with the switch, but the output is still the same. I recommend taking an output from this extra OR gate right here. So this OR gate right here kind of acts as a bridge between these, because in real computers, actually I'm pretty sure that real computers don't use these bits of memory, but if you were to use these in real computers, these would be wired into each other. So instead of having a triangle right here, you would have this NOR gate wired into the back of this NOR gate, and then the output of this NOR gate is output into the back of this NOR gate, creating a triangle. But since we can't do that in Scrap Mechanic, we have an extra block right here that acts as a bridge to go in between them. And this makes it really easy to see when there's more than one lit up. And so I usually consider this off, and then this to be on, so that you don't have to remember which one is on and off. So this gives you a bit of polarity. So you might be wondering, how do you build this? Well, first, you have your NOR OR set up right here, which I've already shown you how to do it. And then you just need 3 logic gates, or 3 more logic gates, 2 ANDs, and a NOR or NAND, depending on how you want to input it, but this just needs to be inverted. So either a NAND or a NOR. Now, the difference between those, NAND means that, hang on, let me just set up an example right here. NAND means all of them have to be on for this to turn off, but NOR means that only one of them has to be on to turn off. So depending on the application of the circuit, you might need a NOR and you might need a NAND. So, you take your two AND gates in front of one of them, which is going to be your ON side. So you connect this to the NOR gate, which is supposed to, oh wait, no, sorry, this is your OFF side. So the inverted is the off side, and you hook this into the logic block that you need to input to turn it off. So since input gets rid of the on state on the logic block that it's hooked up to, it's kind of like a teeter-totter. If you hit one side, the other side pops up. That's kind of how I like to think of it. So if you take an input, then this turns off. So this is going to be your off side. You take the input from the data or data pin. You feed that into the inverter that you've chosen, either NAND or NOR. You feed that into an AND gate, and you feed that into your off side. And then you do the same thing, but without a NAND or NOR gate, or the inverter. You wire that into another AND gate, and then you wire that onto your ON side, or the logic block that you input to turn on the memory, or to save a 1 to memory. And then you take these two AND gates and wire your toggle right button into it. So then this will let the data pass through. And that is how the circuit works. So whenever you have this on, it will let you change the state of the memory, but when you turn it off, it will not let you do it. So now we're going to take a look at how we are going to make this a bit more compact. So this is where it gets kind of hard to follow along. But there are multiple ways of condensing this. You can do it in a shape like this. So that's 6 blocks, since there are 6 logic blocks. Or you can do it in a much flatter version, but much wider. So depending on what application you need, I'm going to have it in this setup right here, because it's in my opinion, it's an easier footprint to work with. So, on the first side right here, doesn't want me to put it down. On the first side right here, this is going to be your actual memory right here. So this is going to be our output, so we're going to set that to OR. We're going to have NOR and NOR right there. Now, just to test that this works, or to test which way the input works, we are going to do this. And so this means that this is our off block, so you put an input into this block to turn it off, and you put an input into this block to turn it on. So I'm just going to paint it like that, just so I can remember, and I'm going to change the paint scheme of this after. And then blue is the output. So now, if I put this, oh yeah, this happens whenever you put stuff on the lift that has a loop that likes to pulse. It does this. You're going to have to learn to accept this. You're never going to be able to copy or put stuff on a lift without completely messing up anything if you've already put stuff into memory. So you have to get good at writing stuff down. So, the second part of this takes 3 circuits. We're going to have 2 AND gates, and we're going to have a NOR gate right there. So, actually, I'm going to switch the direction of this, just to make it a bit more convenient, because I would like the wires not to cross. So, the inverter goes on the negative input, or the off side input. So we have our inverter here, which is going to be a NOR gate. And then we have the AND gate below that. And then we have another AND gate right here, which we're just going to wire in right there. So this, hang on a minute. Okay, yeah, I've done this right. Sorry, I just had a bit of a brain fart there. So now we input these guys into there, and this is going to be like internal circuitry. You're not going to have to deal with this. You're not going to have to deal with this either. So we paint this black as a neutral color, just to make sure that we don't mess with that. Now, just so that it's much more clear, and we don't need to feed inputs into this, or when we're wiring it up, we want it to be a lot easier to put the wires in, so that we don't have to, say, take the button and then wire it into two different things. We don't want that. We want to be able to wire it into one thing. So we're going to get two more logic blocks here. We'll set them to OR, because normally that's what you want the input to be normally. I usually use OR gates. And we will put the input right here. So input is white. And then we take this, and then we connect it up to these two AND gates right there. And we will paint this green. So, what we have right here is a cube, a 2x2 cube of memory. Now, we're going to test this memory. Let me just weld this to the ground real quick. So we get our output right there. We hook up the output to the blue. We have a button for enable write, and we have a switch for the actual data itself. So we hook those two into there. So now we can switch this as many times as we want, but nothing will happen until we press the button. So this is a 0. It's writing 0. It's still the same. We turn the switch on, press the button, and it writes a 1. We can turn it off, and nothing happens. And so that has stored the memory right there. And that is how to make a single memory bit. So this concludes this short tutorial on how to make a logic memory unit that has a slightly smarter input, so it knows whether or not you want to input something or whether or not to ignore the input state. So in future videos I will show how to make more advanced circuits, how to string these together, probably how to get address selection working, because that's going to be the next thing. You're not going to want all of your memory bits in your RAM to be hooked up to the same address. You want to be able to select them individually. So that's what I'm going to do next. So I will see you guys in the next video.